Breaking news out of the Middle East right now. CNN reports the military is prepared to strike Iran as early as this weekend. The military would tell you they're prepared right now. That's their job. But CNN reports Trump has yet to make a final call. Seems accurate. You could say that any day in the past 2 weeks. Certainly believable. NewsNation's Libby Dean reports that Trump met with his national security team in the Situation Room today to discuss war options. In the last 24 hours, reportedly over 50 fighter jets, F-35s, F-22s, F-16s, made their way toward Iran. Reports say 150 U.S. military cargo flights have moved weapon systems and ammunition to the Middle East night after night. It is a conga line from the eastern seaboard of the United States with tankers, fighter jets, reconnaissance aircraft, all moving into the Middle East, not to mention the USS Gerald Ford, second aircraft carrier, will be there in about 4 days. The U.S. military is moving enough hardware for a sustained, long-term bombing campaign. So this is really creating a kind of big question, would be the best way to say it. The administration keeps telling everyone it's about Iran's nuclear program. My reporting says the administration is very upset the Ayatollah is starting to rebuild their nuclear sites. And the administration doesn't want regime change. They're scared of it. So you can see the Iranians right here working to rebuild their nuclear sites the U.S. and Israel destroyed in the last 2 years. Brigadier General John Teichert is with us now, former Assistant Deputy Undersecretary of the Air Force, former Air Force combat pilot. General, welcome. Thank you. Good to see you. There's this dichotomy. If you want to just go back and bomb the nuclear sites, you go back with the B-2s and Midnight Hammer, and there's not that much. You don't need this huge buildup. Is this to try and scare Iran, or is this to have a sustained bombing campaign?
Leland, there's no doubt that this is partly to negotiate from a position of strength, but it's also to give the president options. It may be a singular strike the president ultimately wants, but he may want something more sustained than that. And so I think the mix of forces that's flowing to the region is making sure that we could sustain something at an appropriate level of risk that would meet the objectives of the president.
Okay, so a few things to break down there. You say sustain an operation. You've planned these things before. Obviously, the military always wants more power than less, overwhelming force. You want to be able to go and get pilots if they get shot down, on and on. So you want reserves. Based on what's flying over there and going, 2 aircraft carriers in this conga line, what are the possibilities? Are we talking weeks-long bombing campaigns? Are we talking a couple of strikes? What's the outsized possibility?
Leland, I think it's important to go back to June and Operation Midnight Hammer, where it was far more than just 7 B-2s. There were 125 aircraft in that strike package. That includes fighters, bombers, air refueling aircraft, electronic warfare aircraft, intelligence surveillance reconnaissance aircraft, command and control aircraft, and suppression of enemy air defense. All of those go into a strike package. And I think if you look back to the 12-day war and what Israel did, that if we have the force structure so that we could do something similar alongside of the Israelis, then it gives us and the president a whole lot of options going forward.
What is the biggest option right now? What is the, hey, Mr. President, you want to teach the Iranians a lesson. This is what we can do with what we have.
Right now, the first type of targets that you would go after is their ballistic missile program, because it is the only way that they can project power and provide a threat to the region.
Right.
So you would strike production facilities, logistic facilities. You'd strike maybe some residual nuclear sites. And I think you would also be poised to strike internal security sites so that if you were in coordination with the protesters, then now you could allow regime change to bubble from the bottom up.
So that issue of regime change is an important one, and it is one that, once again, I don't know what you want to call it, the Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, whatever they would consider themselves, Republican, MAGA, America Firsters, whatever it is, are warning the same way they did before Midnight Hammer that this is World War III. Take a listen.
Your belief is that if you go in and it's more than just taking out ballistic missiles or some broader context with these negotiations, but if it's taking out the Iranian military, the Revolutionary Guard, the mullahs, the ayatollahs, you own it. You got everybody worked up in the streets by destroying, best in destroying their currency. You got them all worked up. If you take it now, you own it.
Number one, you don't really own it. We didn't own Libya or Syria and any of these other places we messed up. But more importantly, you served for a year in Iraq. You understand the dynamics inside Iran. Is there a government in waiting? Is there a coalition of moderates that can be built quickly to take over Iran?
I'm amazed at the hand-wringing I'm seeing about all of this. First of all, the president's credibility is on the line. He said we're locked and loaded. He said help is on the way.
To the protesters.
To the protesters, which means that 5 weeks ago, at least regime change was on his mind. I think that while there is a lack of a definitive way forward for a new government to replace the regime and the Ayatollah, that I think there are options. And because the dissatisfaction and hatred of the regime is so strong in Iran right now, that anything that we do that would cause regime change would really be top cover for the supported function, which are the protesters. And then the aftermath is all up to them in how they decide to govern going forward once the Ayatollah has moved on.
The reporting from Axios, Barak Ravid, who's one of the best there is, Trump moves closer to a major war with Iran. We've seen President Trump's military actions, very successful ones, both in his first term and his second term. They are one and done surgical strikes, well planned, well executed, that have a very clear mission. They achieve that objective, he declares victory. That's not a major war. They're different. How do we all of a sudden see a president doing something so different?
So I don't know if that is the president's intent. I see him being poised to either take targets of opportunity out, maybe a buildup of a nuclear program or those ballistic missile sites, or if the protests do start, then now we can strike those internal security sites in a way that is a one and done, that is a quick surgical strike, that gives the protesters unique top cover, and then allow them to deal with the aftermath. And I think that's a way to balance these objectives in a way that those that are wringing their hands don't quite understand.
General, pleasure, sir. Thank you very much.